Hello, everybody. You're here with Rio Helmi again for the next episode of The View from Down Here. And today I'm interviewing Eva Wojowska.
Ah, well done.
And Eva is quite the character around Bausch. She's quite not the character, but quite the figure of community work and community education and so on and so on and so on. And I'm sure there's much more to it, but we'll get into it right now. So Eva... Polish Australian, is that a thing? Can we still say that?
I don't know.
Why do we have to talk about ethnicity? Doesn't everybody scream about that? You know, like
Polish. Grew up in Australia.
Okay.
But now I've lived in Indonesia longer than I've lived anywhere else.
You're the nasi goreng girl. Okay. But I'd like to know a little bit before we get into the whole thing about Copernic. Which is actually the essence of what we're going to talk about. But I'd like to know a little bit about the background, just to give a kind of context. So you're Polish, you grew up in Australia, and your education was in Australia. And what was your education focused on?
My education kind of wove all over the place.
Okay.
I started in IT.
Oh, wow.
Computer science. And then...
Was that Melbourne?
In Canberra.
Canberra.
And then public policy and Asian studies.
In Canberra?
In Melbourne. Then
in
Melbourne. Yes.
Okay.
I escaped from Canberra to Melbourne.
Well, you will not believe it, but as a young little kid, I lived in Canberra. And I tried to escape in my pedal car a few times.
Yeah.
But Canberra was a quiet place in the 50s.
You were in a diplomatic family, right?
My father was the ambassador there. But, I had this little car. And, I was about 4, I think. And I was just pedaling furiously. And the neighbors watched me go by. And it was so quiet. It took a couple of miles before they picked me up. Oh, Mr. Helmi, your son has run away.
Okay.
True story. True story. But Canberra... and then you were in Melbourne, which is a very different situation. Yes. And then just a little bit about your work history. I mean, did I get it right that you worked at the UN?
I did. We have a cat.
Oh, we have a cat.
Is he outside?
It's okay. We'll edit it out.
I can double door this one. So
sorry.
What? Sorry.
That's how interesting. We'll keep that. We have a cat. I like that. Yeah, coming back to it. So did I understand correctly you worked at the UN for a while?
I did. I worked at the UN for 10 years.
Where?
Initially in East Timor and then in Indonesia and then went to Sierra Leone and also did some work in Thailand and then... eventually to headquarters in New York, and then that was the time that we decided to.
New York did it to you.
Well, I mean, I loved New York. Yes. Headquarters less so.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you'd been to Indonesia before. You worked where in Indonesia?
So I had worked in Indonesia from 2002 until 2007, based in Jakarta, but working on in conflict-affected areas. And so that was...
there wouldn't have been many back then, no. I'm just kidding. I'm being sarcastic.
Well, there were 5.
There were 5 at least.
So it was Aceh, West Kalimantan, Maluku, North Maluku, and Central Sulawesi.
West Kalimantan was during the whole Dayak
exactly.
Madura thing.
Yeah.
Whew, that was not very nice time. That was pretty rough.
That was, very, very rough time.
Yeah. So you did a lot of field work around Pontianak?
I did. I was actually doing a lot of research at that time. So
in the field?
In the field,
Yeah. Yeah, that was not a good time. I won't get into it, but anyway. So, and then... after you quit the UN, you came back to Indonesia? Or?
Yes, so I met Toshi, who's the other co-founder of Copernic, and my husband.
New York?
No, we met in Jakarta. We met at the office in Jakarta.
The big durian.
Yes. Okay. And then after that, we we were together and went to Sierra Leone and New York. And when we were figuring out how to launch Copernic, we knew that we couldn't stay in New York. It didn't make sense kind of financially. We're not American. And so we wanted to be in a place where Copernic would be doing its work. And we actually made this matrix and, scoring.
So the Copernic concept came before you came back to Indonesia. It wasn't like it grew organically from being back here. And you had this idea.
No, we had this very specific idea, and we launched Copernic in New York. Okay. But by then we'd already decided to.
What was the specific idea? May I ask?
Yes, the specific idea was amazing simple technologies existed, like solar lights, water filters. Remember, this is 2009.
Yes.
Agricultural tools, health tools that could really improve people's lives in a very tangible way. And this was particularly interesting to me because I had been working in human rights and access to justice and governance, so kind of very intangible, slow-moving things. So the idea of having something very tangible, light, a light is just very... light or electricity, when you don't have that, makes a big difference.
Big deal.
So technologies existed, they weren't getting to where they were needed, so we were...
And not in a form that would be practical.
Well, at that time, these simple tools were starting to appear. They just weren't getting to where they would really make a difference, right? Okay. We decided to kind of be this connector of between the technology providers, the people who needed them, and then mobilizing money. So that was the original idea.
Okay. So that's fascinating. I mean, of course, because of all your experience around the world, that makes a lot of sense, or around Indonesia, around the world. But still, I was going to ask you, the context of when, what, and how Copernic started. But really, what I wanted, that's now we've kind of passed that hurdle. But what I would like to know is, has it been a linear development, like from what you had planned and what you thought out to where you are today?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me. I'm really interested about that.
Well, we started off as a technology distribution organization.
Okay.
And that's quite different to what we do now. So, and making that shift, I think it was around 2015, 16 that we decided to move into more kind of research and development and experimentation. So
you were already well established here.
We're well established. So we just turned 16 actually. So
okay. Wow.
Well, teenager,
difficult years.
Difficult, sometimes very difficult. Yes. Yes.
So you made that shift, and you made that quite consciously.
We did, because the technologies that we were focusing on were becoming more available, and we felt that we could have a bigger impact if we also focused on other unmet needs that people had, and maybe develop the next solar light or the next water filter, whatever that is. So we really shifted to finding more solutions, more ideas that would very tangibly improve people's lives.
So you could say that basically you had broken through the distribution barrier or whatever the thing, but there was a point where you felt, I mean, is this correct to say that? Then you felt that there was more, and other people were already coming into that and could deal with it.
Well, I definitely wouldn't say that problem has been solved, because distribution if you think about Eastern Indonesia, it's and
That's what I wanted to ask
the
you, yes.
island, the nature of Indonesian geography, it's still a problem. The question is, were we the best organization,
Okay.
the best people to do it?
All right.
And we thought not.
No, that was basically more or less the context of my question. Was I mean, I think self-awareness is quite important in these situations, because I'm not sure whether it's diplomatic of me to say, but I have been involved in the NGO world in Indonesia once or twice, and I've noticed that often people kind of lose sight of their relevance or irrelevance. You build something and you're so busy kind of funding it and establishing your thing that your vision and mission is
You lose sight of why you were doing
exactly
it in the first place.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. I find that is it's probably, if I may, I don't know, I'm making a presumption that it might have been very key for you to be able to, for your continuity of Kopernik, to make that adjustment. I don't know. I mean, you did that consciously. You shifted from direct problem solving to like more R&D approach that was more, is that fair to say? I mean, more an R&D approach that was like more context appropriate or context.
Yeah, I mean, we could have stayed as a distribution company or organization, technology distribution, but that we would have been a logistics operation, because that's really what it comes down
A business.
to. And and that is not really where our strengths
Yeah.
are. So yeah, this focus on really understanding what the unmet needs of people are, and then together with them coming up with potential solutions, testing them, and then if something works, then we either someone, the community, an organization, local government will adopt it, or we will spin it off as its own organization or company.
Yeah, giving it a life of its own, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is really, I think, is a very key thing. I think it's often there's a sort of a subconscious, I don't know whether this is international, but I've seen it in Indonesia, at least, the subconscious attempt to monopolize things, that this is our thing, and whereas really, I don't know if you agree, but I would say that for communities to develop, they have to take possession of their own.
Well, it'll just stop otherwise, right?
Yes, and it always does.
If people don't feel that it's theirs, then
Yes.
they're not going to
Yes.
continue to.
Yes, I mean, I saw that when I was working on this TV series with Joe, what I called Swadaya, and I really wanted to focus on communities that didn't get injections from outside, that didn't get, and they would start up on some genius in the village, and we had one interesting case. I'm going to, sorry, we can edit this out later if you want.
No,
But
I
we
actually want to mention something about
yeah,
this too.
there was a very interesting case in East Java where this guy, he came back from his school. He was at madrasa, and he just said, we need to get our stuff together here. And he initiated some interesting local things. And lo and behold, there was a whole goat's milk thing which he started.
I remember the goat's milk.
That started.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was that after it really started rolling, and then other people started copying it, and he said, I said, don't you? And he said, no, it's good.
That's the best.
That's
when
what he said. He
people
said,
copy
no,
it,
he said,
right?
that's good. It's great. They
Yeah.
can do it. And I really learned something from his spirit. Pahao, his name was.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really amused me, I mean, the stories he used to tell me about, like at one point, I think it was a minister or maybe the governor came to visit to see this thing. And they were there and talking, and all of a sudden the local agricultural guy comes running up and says, yes, I showed them this program and how to do it, and he's just sitting there smiling. It's like, and there are those moments like that, where you just think, what do you do? I mean, do you have to really put your stamp on it, or,
No, I mean, just think back to why are we doing this, right?
Yes.
It's not to promote Copernic, right?
Right.
Or to promote whatever. It's hopefully to make a positive
Yes, impact.
have a difference.
Yeah.
Actually, just back to the. Can you pick up that book? Have you read this?
No, I haven't.
Take it. It's for you. It's
Thank you.
so many local examples there. Danny
Oh,
Luxon,
excellent.
yeah, it's
Why
an
does Yusuf
amazing,
Bodo ring a
amazing.
bell? Anyway, but great. Thank you so much. Reset Indonesia. Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very
I
good.
will get into it.
Yes.
I'm a slow reader, by the way. But yeah, and you know, there was. I had my own little moment with that, where you know, when we had Wisnu, and we got a call from the field one day, and said, "Pa, there's a guy from the dinas, from the service, the sanitation service." And we had started a composting thing at the Intercontinental, and apparently the guy from the local Dinas Kebersihan, they were having a visit from some big. He came and put up a sign that this was the Dinas Kebersihan thing. He says, "What are we going to do, Pa?" We said, "Oh, just leave it.
Just leave it.
Just leave it. You know,
Actually,
like,
great.
it's great.
Fantastic, yeah.
Let them see there's a solution. You know. Anyway, okay. Let's get back to our. You in some previous conversations and now too, you talk about spin-offs from your experiments that have come to much more to the fore in your work, and I'd like if you could unpack that a bit for me. You know, spin-offs from experiments and so forth, and why is this more of your focus now?
Well, so a spin-off is a company or an organization or yayasan or a social enterprise that so its own entity that grows out of one of our projects or experiments, and it's when we have 4 right now and another 2 in the pipeline, and it's
Independently initiated, or you initiated them?
so the kind of origin story is that the first spin-off was Perfect Fit, which is a menstrual hygiene social enterprise, and it was initially a project in Sumba. It was a research project that was looking into whether making reusable sanitary pads available to schoolgirls, whether it had any impact on school attendance. And then the 2 women that were working on that, 2 of our team members, Tunga and Icha, they were so excited by it that by the end of the project, they came to Toshi and I and said, "We want to keep working on this. We want to start our own company." And it was so great, and they're still they're doing an amazing job. It's the first Indonesian, women-owned menstrual hygiene products company. So very, very impressed. And then so that kind of sparked this idea. It's like, oh, well, this is amazing. It's continuing without Copernic. It's getting its own revenue, its own funding.
Wow.
So let's do more. So then we established this program called the Next CEO program, and it's for our team members, and they can apply for this program. And if they have an idea for a spin-off, or again, it could be a yayasan, it could be a for-profit company, and if they're approved, they have 1 year of support from Copernic. So they're still getting their Copernic salary while they're building this.
They're getting the legs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they have, kind of advisory support from different team members. And then they spin off and they get some initial capital from Copernic as well. And yeah, so the next one was Maggie Farm. So Maggie Farm is a black soldier fly bioconversion company.
A what?
So do you know black soldier flies? So black soldier flies, they eat a huge amount of food waste. So they're dealing with this massive issue of organic and food waste in Bali, and then the larva is a very high source of protein for chickens and fish, and it's a very protein rich alternative animal feed.
You have taken us all down a totally different
So
world.
it's but they're
It's
amazing. You know,
amazing.
they're serving angkasa pura. They're like the major hotels in Bali. So they're
You mean the chicken, not the
Maggie Farm. Maggie Farm.
Maggie Farm, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very proud of it.
Oke, udah semua ya, udah hancur. Sudah tercampur rata, aku belum, tunggu ya. Jadi ini kita dapat sumbangan
Very cool.
Very proud of that.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. I mean, and what else have you
Spun off.
yeah.
So then there's Sobian coffee. So this came out of a so you'll recall during COVID there shit hit the fan.
Yes.
But
I
so
do recall.
we were working with a group of farmers. So trying to at that point we were trying to encourage younger farmers to kind of return to farming and then provide market access and improved agricultural practices. And from that time, Mika from Tabanan, he started a coffee, kind of a sustainable
Okay.
agricultural
Okay.
coffee company, and that's doing great. And that coffee is really delicious if you're a coffee drinker.
Yes, I am.
And then the ones we have in the pipeline are Copernic Harvest, which is a trading company we've worked with hundreds of farmers all over Indonesia, and the challenge when we're thinking about longevity and sustainability is always market access. So Copernic Harvest is I guess the middleman, right? So buying from this network of farmers that we have.
Well, they're middlemen and the middlemen, you know.
Yes,
You know.
good middleman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have a Knoll, which is my little new
How is
venture.
that spelled?
NOL.
NOL.
And that's a zero alcohol
beverage. Okay, no.
Yes. You would be interested in that too, I think.
Probably, yeah. Not that I miss the taste of
No,
alcohol,
but
still,
it's an interesting adult drink.
Adult drink, yes. The blue light disco thing. But so all this has all been happening in Indonesia for the last, what is it now? It's almost 10 years since COVID. No, it's
Since COVID?
6 years, no? No. No.
7 years,
Yeah, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but when was the point when, I mean, I noticed that you have now you have some regional activities like in Southeast Asia. I'm not really sure what, but I saw that on a website. And when and where and what?
We don't. We have a small team in Japan, so you know Toshi's Japanese.
Yes. Makes sense.
We don't do a huge amount of work outside of Indonesia, but we've worked in Myanmar, done some work in East Timor, and that's usually through kind of our advisory services. So a client would come to us and
Okay, so it's a
it would be a consulting engagement.
I mean, East Timor makes sense somehow because it was for a brief, probably unhappy time, part of Indonesia, but
Yes,
Myanmar is a big jump,
Yeah, we've done a few things in Myanmar. They were very interested in the kind of solar lights and water filters and cook stoves, and then we also did some work with Unilever actually on testing kind of dengue and malaria prevention products.
Okay. But But it's more you're not like really pushing through like you're doing here. I
No,
mean,
no,
right.
that would be consultancies. Yeah.
Okay, and okay, so Copernic, has how big is Copernic now in terms of how many? What's your personnel? I mean, you must have
Around 60 people.
60 people. That's
Yeah.
quite big for for what you
Yeah.
guys do. Wow, impressive. Um, I know, I remember that you helped produce a film, Pulau Plastic, and you've gone into other cultural stuff. What's the thinking behind that? I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I understand the Pulau Plastic is, the theme is okay, but it's a whole different cultural, if, it's different fields, put it that way.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I have a couple of different answers to that. The first one was specifically with Pulau Plastic. We're based in Bali.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Waste is a massive issue.
Huge.
What
Still
can
is.
we do? Oh, it's
ridiculous.
crazy. So that was the thinking, was that was a contribution to that. On the other hand, I mean, a lot of the things that we're dealing with require some kind of behavioral change, right? Or policy change. And how does policy change happen? There needs to be there need to be voices that are asking and pushing for that change. And so, I mean, from my perspective, art, music, film, they're approaches that touch people. They touch people's hearts. They make you feel something, which is very different to a report.
Yes. Reports kind of like,
or a speech. So, yeah, it was like, how can we entertain people while
how to get to them.
Yeah, like how to really get people to feel and listen. And then, of course, that's not enough on its own, but it's
the
part beginning of a process.
Yeah, it's the beginning of a process, and
Yeah.
you have other stuff behind that that you can segue into from that. But what else are you doing besides film, music, or?
Yes, and just
I know you play
still
the
on
drums sometimes. I've seen you play drums. Very impressive.
still on Pulau Plastic. There's actually a sequel to Pulau Plastic. It's called Harun Namanya.
Okay.
And I don't know whether you recall the storyline of Pulau Plastic, but there was a truck driver. And so the truck driver, it was this random connection that happened. We needed to rent a truck and a driver. So, Google search, find truck rentals, and this guy gets sent to us, which is Pak Harun from Tulungagung. Anyway, he's on this journey with Robbie, throughout the shooting of Pulau Plastic. He's just a regular guy, and he's smoking and throwing cigarettes out the window.
He's a truckie.
He's a truckie, And then through that process, he becomes so into this issue so he's sold his truck, he's given up the trucking life, and has become the most hardcore environmental activist.
Oh, cool!
In Tulungagung, and
how cool is that?
He's planting thousands of trees. On Idul Adha they have the goat sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so he forbids anyone from using plastic. He's like this hardcore militant activist. So we've made a film about him.
Cool.
Yeah.
So now that's the second film. You've already made it.
We've made it, yeah. So it'll be released very soon.
Oh, cool. I look forward to seeing that. That
Yeah.
would be interesting. I have to probably watch Pulau Plastic again and get the
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then of course we do a lot of work with musicians through ICLIM, which is the Indonesian Climate Communications Arts and Music Lab, and we worked with more than 40
Where is
musicians.
Harun, the film about Harun, going to be released?
Very soon.
Online.
Yes, it will. We'll probably do a few screenings, and then
Get on Netflix.
I mean, Follow Plastic is on Netflix, so
So why couldn't you
maybe
get that on Netflix? It would be good.
it would
I mean,
be,
Netflix in Indonesia is sort of starting to get a little bit
it
more
is.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Cool. That's a really interesting story, actually.
Yeah.
That's the kind of story that gives me a little bit of hope. Like it was the same thing with Pak Hao. This guy comes back from the madrasah. All his friends think he's crazy. He says, "Why? You just went to all this education. Why are you going back to the village?" He's like, "Yeah, no, this is where it's at."
Yeah. It is where it's at.
And he started this whole thing, and he's such a funny guy. He's got like very mischievous side, but he's I have to go and see him again. I haven't seen him for years. He came over, he visited, and I mean, I guess we're coming to something now which read these outreach things, et cetera, et cetera. In the past, Copernic has been very involved in setting up task forces and coordinating NGOs, and you know where this is going, and government agencies to deal with different, major events. And the two major events that I can think of are the Agung eruption, of course, and the COVID
yes,
pandemic.
That's how we started working together, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what I want to say. Of course, full disclosure for our listeners, I worked on both of these task forces, mainly in the field. And so I am really keen to hear a different perspective from somebody who was in the middle of the hub, somebody who was behind the steering wheel and was dealing with a lot of more of the politics than I was. I was just the guy running around in the field on a bike. But I'm so curious. Did all your past experiences that you had in all this in the work that you've been doing, were you really prepped for this? I mean, you had this experience with the UN and all, there's all this politics and stuff like that. I mean, when you went into this, of course, with the Agung thing, it was a bit more pell-mell, but with COVID, it was definitely, that was a moment, a very political moment. And did your past experience really help you then, or were you prepared for all the stuff that came up? And what came up for you that was really? I mean, I don't want to get you booted out of anything.
I don't think anyone saw what was coming, right?
No.
With COVID and how divisive it ended up being.
Agung was divisive too in some ways, less so than
But
COVID,
less so,
less
yeah.
internationally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I actually think that you had one of the most difficult jobs and arguably the most important job, which was to actually go around and witness and understand and report back to us what was actually happening.
It was weird at times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember the many calls like, Rio, come back. Don't go there. Did you know that I was officially the Rio handler?
Oh, really?
So, yes,
Nobody else could deal with it. No, nobody else could deal with this madman.
No.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny. I thought it was just my charm. Well, but look, honestly, let me coming just on that particular subject. I mean, I don't really mind that because I saw you as probably the only person in the middle of that whole whirlpool of things, both in Agung and in the COVID thing, who had the kind of capacity to, understand and to see all these crisscross things coming in from the field and being able to deal with them less emotionally than some people did, And I mean, it was even Agung, there was a lot of politics going on in Agung. And,
I didn't really.
but you were not. You weren't on the forefront.
I
on
didn't
that.
really engage in the politics.
Yeah.
But I have to say, and this doesn't sound great, but I really thrive in situations, in like
Yes.
emergency situations. It's,
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, that's what I
get-
recognize. And I saw other people, and there's no need to mention names. I mean, everybody really chipped in. Everybody
Oh,
worked.
it was
It was,
amazing.
you know,
Yeah.
both on Agong and on COVID. But, you know, there's, you know, I guess the only term, I guess, is linchpin. You know, like somebody has to be, you know, like tying it all together while different people do things. And, you know, people, we had people coming up, I'm sorry to say this, but some people came up with some pretty wacky stuff. And I says, okay, you know, all right. I mean, like, I'm just, you know, I'm here in a clinic and like they got lifts and 3 floors and they've got no masks. They've got no, you know, gloves. I mean, what's that, you know? Or I'm in the middle of the field and, you know, and the eruptions are going along and, you know, and somebody's, you know, we're dealing with people who think, well, and I'm getting close to naming, so I won't.
Don't.
But but just, you know, there's somebody has an initiative to save pets. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna send somebody up there to. You know, there was stuff like that.
There are different roles for different people.
Different roles for different people.
And, you know,
I respect
and some
all of them,
people are
but
very,
sometimes people didn't have perspective, and it really all of those things need somebody with perspective. You know, somewhere at the back in the hub of things, because, you know, I'm in the field. I don't know what's going on up in the, you know, between the governor and so forth. But you know, there were things like that, of course, and there were things like, you know, you were dealing with people who were from a different country, an international, you know, body, a foreign government body who was funding things, and then all of a sudden that, you know, I mean, I could never deal with that stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I that is one thing that I guess I have been prepared for. I think I you know, through my work at the UN and also 16 years of Copernic, I can speak to donors. Yeah.
Yes, and you were good at it, and I thought that. What is the most important lesson that you've learned in that evolution?
Well, I would say that. Well, first of all, I'm not getting any younger, and Copernic is 16, and I guess we have to think about the future and what happens beyond Copernic itself. And what's really exciting is seeing, you know, incredibly committed, smart, young people who are so good at, you know, so committed and passionate to the experiments that we're doing, that they want to start their own organization and take that much further than we would be able to do, you know, if everything stayed within Copernic. So really just being very firm about when it's better if it's beyond us. You know, we don't have to own it. If something's successful and impactful, it doesn't have to be a Copernic thing. It doesn't have to have the Copernic name attached to it. It's so much better if it's adopted beyond us and grows into its own entity.
Okay, so you have a sense of detachment, which is more. It's
detachment. We're very committed.
Yeah, and I'm
excited.
not saying you know that you're, but just in the sense of, from the sense of ownership, and it's more about the actual organization itself and what it does, and what it will do, and the things that will spin out from it.
It's more about the impact that.
Okay.
That it can have, which is so much more important than any name or any organization that it's tied to.
Okay.
And for us, from the very beginning, we've always been very excited if someone copies or replicates something that we've done, because that's, you know, then it has the possibility of going mainstream or scaling.
Okay. And so, like, following that thought, would you say where do you think you would like to be in 5 years from now, if that's the way this thing is trending?
I mean, I would love to see so many more experiments grow into their own organizations and have 50, 100 spin-offs that are having a much bigger impact than Copernic has ever had. That would be so exciting, and I would consider it a massive success.
Do you see Copernic and Copernic just developing a completely new role in that time? Like, for example, let's say all the years that you've been in Indonesia, I mean, you must have observed certain things which you think are crucial to change, or the crucial to be adapted or to evolve, that are not exactly what you're doing now. Is there anything on the horizon for you in that context?
When we started and had a vision for Copernic, it's very different. That vision is very different to what we're doing today. So it's been very much a continuous evolution. And actually, for me, that's the big strength of Copernic. I think that's something that we're able to do, and we have done over the years, like really adapted and adjusted to what we see is, I guess, our value add, our strength, and evolving to changing context, changing dynamics, changing priorities. So I believe we'll continue to do that. I think it's impossible for us to know at this point what 5 years looks like. Just to take that back to everything that's happening in the world just in the last couple of months, I don't think we could have imagined that.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I think, for example, you have maybe not totally, but quite a different, after all these years, what is it, 16 years in Indonesia? Yeah. You must have a very different view of what's going on here. And of course, there's been a lot of evolution here too, as well. What's the most fundamental thing that's changed for you? What's shifted for you in your perception of the situation here in Indonesia? In context of the work that you do?
I mean, honestly, I think many things stay the same, really, if you look at inequality, power dynamics. I would argue that not so much has changed. What has been really great to see is the talent, the people that we can attract, the people that work at Copernic. Very different to the Indonesia very different to the kind of talent that I think was
available at the time, or
I want to say available, but yeah, very different to the talent that I experienced in my work in the early 2000s in Jakarta.
Well, that's a pretty big shift.
It's huge. It's huge.
A very big shift.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, I personally also see that talent and also confidence has really grown.
For sure, there is brain drain, but I don't think people. This is of course, just my perception. I don't think people are anti-Indonesia. In fact, I mean, when I meet Indonesians abroad, they are so proud to be Indonesian. So I don't think it's that. I just think it's a limited opportunity and limited access to really good jobs, and just.
Well, that's what a brain drain is, basically.
Yes, but so it's definitely a problem, and from my perspective, the solution would be to have more opportunities and be just a bit more flexible, and that goes back to where, the possibility of working remotely, the possibility of, then we can get into the whole citizenship issue, which is
It's a fairly sensitive thing.
It is, yes. So we'll leave it there, but it's definitely, I think, preventing, really skilled people.
We've had some pretty brutal examples of the reverse of that, where people who are in the private sector, and one or two from overseas. What was her name? The lady who was brought back to deal with all the ferry organization. She was dragged into a corruption case, which was totally, was not. She had. The ASDP, she had, reformed the whole organization. They were making a profit for the first time. They were adding lines. And it actually, was working. It's a state-owned company. And she had left a really good job in the States. And then they dragged her into this trumped-up corruption case. And then we have, of course, the more famous one of Nadiem, Indonesia's first unicorn, Nadiem Makarim, and as if he needed to make money out of the government. But when people see that, the younger generation, I think
it's
it undermines their confidence.
Absolutely, yeah. All those things you mentioned are a part of the problem. So, definitely a massive problem to address, and I think there are solutions, but whether
But you're getting people who are skilled, talented, and also motivated. You've got
we've got an incredible team.
You've got an incredible team
here. Yeah.
So what is it you think that attracts them?
I would hope that it's because it's a good place to work. We pay relatively well. And provide and lots of interesting opportunities, for experiments. So it's not for everyone. It's for people who, are very much interested in experimenting, adapting, adjusting. So it's not for people who want a very structured environment.
Creative people, in a
definitely
way,
creative people, but who can also get stuff done. And a lot of our team members have gone on to do scholarships, government-funded scholarships abroad. Some have returned. Some have returned to Copernic after leaving and going and doing other things. But I think all of them have returned to Indonesia.
That's great. Well, then they bring back with them also their experience and stuff. So, eventually Copernic could run on its own. Just kidding. Okay. I'd like to kind of talk about something slightly more specific. Related to the question that I asked earlier about, what would be the social policies and attitudes that should be negotiated. We didn't get too specific on that, but still, and we talked about, briefly about unmet needs and stuff. But when coming back to the, I think, maybe I'm presuming too much here, that the Gunung Agung thing and the COVID thing were, I think, quite big for Copernic in the sense of interacting with the government. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so going forward, what has that taught you about the possibilities of interacting with the government, or what has that taught you, if there should be any interaction with the government or at all, or I'm just curious, what did you take away from those two experiences? Because you were quite key in those, organizing some of those things.
I think the experiences of partnering with the government in those two examples of COVID and Mount Agung were actually very positive. And I would just say generally and broadly that nothing we do is anti-government, right? Everything
Yeah.
that we're doing is actually in support of what the
The goals are.
what the goals are. In many cases, exist in advancing or implementing existing policies as well. So we kind of see ourselves as very much kind of additive or supportive.
I was never suggesting that you were ever in
Yeah.
an anti-government position. I'm just curious as what you learned from that experience that is going to be helpful for you going forward in your partnerships, if you do any partnerships with the government.
We do lots of partnerships with the government, mostly on a local level.
Local level, yeah.
And
I'm talking about a more broader.
well, the key is just having the trust and a good relationship with the person. We were lucky in the cases of Mount Agung and the COVID response that we had someone, really great that we could have a very kind of frank and trusted conversation with. So yeah, I think as long as that is there, that trust and relationship, then we're very much keen to work with the government, and actually think it's really important, because if you're talking about
It's part of the
scaling
landscape. It's part
any
of the
kind
landscape. You
of
can't avoid it.
social or environmental program, of course the government needs to be a key part of that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when, I'm going to sort of go off on my own personal thing now again, but, when we did Visnu, I think I might have mentioned before, I don't know if I mentioned working with Sarwono, because he was the Minister of Environment at the time. And I remember at one point, actually it was at the Makarim's house, when there was this financial crisis in, I think it was 90-something, 98 or whatever it was. And we were all there in Nono's house, a bunch of people, and he said, look, when we talk about crisis here, it's, you people, for you it's a crisis because you can't buy your sourdough bread or whatever it was, and stuff. But for the guy on the street, he's eating rice every day. And so that continues. And so there's different levels of what we call crisis. That was one of the first things he said. Another thing that he said that was really quite interesting to us personally, to Wisnu personally, was he said, look, when you interact with the government people, you can't avoid it, he said, but if you interact with them as an institution, you're going to get stuck. You have to find individuals
100%.
within
Yep.
those institutions who become your bridge, I also think part of what I saw of how Copernic operated during these two crises where I was involved with it, was that you had a similar thing for foreign funding. I mean, you were the trusted people.
But I would never be the person that goes and speaks to the government.
But I would get questions like, who should I, and I would say, well, Copernic. And then it was, oh yeah, okay, we'll look it up. And so you had that role of being the person within this landscape that could connect, people would trust and have confidence and connect. And in terms of funding, do you still feel that is, that's the role that you play a lot?
I believe we're the most legal organization in, certainly in Bali. We do everything by the book, and donors.
Well, that's quite
trust
important. That's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so doing things by the book, does it slow you down?
Probably, but there's, as Toshi, my husband, always says, when you're in a hurry, take the long way. Right?
It's very Japanese.
Yes.
Take the long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've heard that somewhere before. It must be a Japanese saying. To talk about something a little bit more slightly sensitive. When we see programs that come out, that are like a half baked, that come out and are basically, thrown out there, and and then one of the classic examples is the MBG, the Free Nutritious Meal Programs. I mean, it's failed on so many different levels. Health, health checks, health, regulations, corruption, and so forth. What do you think of that program conceptually? Do you think it's something which is feasible to do if all these things were taken care of? Or is it conceptually flawed?
Well, I don't know. I'm not connected enough to the internal politics to know, the kind of intentions and so I won't comment on that. But what's clear, if you look at it from an implementation perspective, is that when things on that scale are done so quickly, of course this was going to happen, right? So, it's not, this program is so, it's the largest in the world, right?
Yeah,
it's not just food. It's about quality, it's about logistics, distribution, all of that. And I think when you focus too much on kind of the optics or the announcement without having the system in place, of course it's gonna have massive problems. So, this is something that has to be treated like aviation or something. You have to have checklists. You have to really shrink the distance from the procurement to the kitchen. Have local procurement. Have simplify. It didn't all need to be rolled out so quickly.
They were so ambitious to roll it out so quickly. They already had problems when they were only rolling, when they started out with a few thousand. They already had indicators that there was these issues.
It's actually something we've been thinking about at Copernicus. Rather than just complaining about it, what can we?
That's what I wanted to ask.
What
next.
could we?
That was
do,
my next question.
Right? So I think big parts of it could be salvageable, but they really need very strict procedures and food safety controls, and then so
what would you do? Would you scale it down first and then build up slowly again? Would you rescale it down, for example, like in areas that are logistically less complicated, for example, on Java or on Bali, or how would you?
I'm not sure that it's possible to. I think you have to close down the really problematic ones and then roll out the safety and quality and procurement aspect. So, we're very interested in looking at the kind of basic kind of food safety testing kits. That's something that would be very interested in doing.
So now we're looking at this mess that's happening in the Hormuz Straits. So 20% of the world's oil goes through there, and it's the Iranians have mined it, and it's like something which could have been actually completely avoided. Even if they decided to keep going on the military thing, they could have secured the straits first. It was the kind of the strategy is so weird. But in any case, I don't think it's a great idea to try and force the Iranians to accept an American president. So, but coming to the most impactful thing that's happened to us as a result, and we haven't felt it yet, but it's coming, the rise in oil prices.
Yeah.
Which is, and you ran a logistic type operation. The first thing that you know is that everything goes up. As soon as the oil price goes up, everything goes up. And we have already issues with food security, healthcare, income, etc. in lower income communities in Indonesia. What happens in the remote parts of Indonesia if this continues like that? How would you address that situation? Because if it does happen, this thing continues and there's no off ramp so far, we don't see it. Oil prices, we're already looking at 120 something. It's the biggest oil hike since 1973, price in oil. These places like Halmahera or some place out there, what would you think? Would you try and develop some more radical, self-reliant food production, or what can you do? What would you do?
Excellent question. I mean, for sure, it's going to hit everyone, right? I mean, oil prices will result in increased shipping, fuel, food prices, anything that's imported and transported, which is almost everything. The places that will feel it first are probably Java and Bali, but the people and places that will feel it longest are those in remote areas. Maybe there's an opportunity to kind of refocus again on renewable energy. Maybe. I don't know.
Is there time to do that?
I mean, none of this is going to be fast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, self-reliance. You'll remember that during the pandemic, the people who were kind of least affected, certainly in Bali, were the people with their own land and food, and that will.
Yeah, I remember all the workers who the migrant workers were suffering because they were stuck in cities.
Exactly. So the people who are to some extent self-reliant will probably be okay.
Well, I mean, coming back to what Sarwona said, he says like, okay, the first people to get impacted actually is the middle class.
Right. Who rely so much on...
Yeah, and they will lose their comforts. They will lose their, the things which they have fought for, and they will lose their self-confidence. I mean, the pandemic certainly did that. Small entrepreneurs, just tanked. And so your spin-offs and the things that you're proud of, there will have to be more of those, no?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, it's kind of the wave of the future in a way. I mean, what else could you offer, in a situation like that? I mean, massive aid, that's not going to work.
No, it's got to be that self-reliance, right?
Yeah.
The closer, the food that doesn't have to travel so far to get to your table. Yeah, supporting more and more of those initiatives.
Okay. So, any closing words? Something that you would like to say? Something that you would add to this conversation as a final statement, if you like?
Well, I'm glad that it wasn't another emergency that resulted in us finally catching up.
Exactly. Who knows in the future? I certainly don't want to, but it could happen. But if it did happen, I would be available. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
your time. I know you're super busy and interesting.
Very nice to chat.
Good to catch up.